everyone? Jason Gilbo here at JGilbo11, breaking down pitching for tonight's slate. Looking at the 7:15 games and later on, FanDuel split it up. They have the 4 o'clock games that you can look at as one of their mains, but taking a look at 7:15. Not a great slate at all. Honestly, I mean, this is probably one of the poorest slates I've seen in quite some time. It's very top heavy for pitching. If you're playing DK, it's very tough to make a lineup with 2 of these guys. The doubleheader games are also only on DraftKings and not on FanDuel, so you have that in there as well. We'll talk about Carlos Carrasco here, who's making the start tonight and is only available on DraftKings. I like him here. Good spot. A little bit expensive for my taste. It's not the greatest of matchups, but you look at Detroit. This is a team that, can go down at times. With the strikeouts, it's up over 22% against righties. This is a team that does make a lot of hard contact. It's also the second game of a back-to-back doubleheader. You might see, some guys sit. I know JD Martinez set out this morning. Expect him in the lineup tonight. But you might see, V-Mart sit. He hasn't been great. You might see Miguel Cabrera sit. So you might see a pretty watered-down Detroit lineup, which would obviously make Carrasco more intriguing. So I would like him there. He's a pretty big favorite, -158 on the road. Tigers run totals right around 4 runs. Carrasco, solid strikeout rate. Doesn't walk a ton of guys, but he would definitely be the guy. So then kind of moving into the guys that are eligible on both sides. I'll talk about Rich Hill here first. Just never a guy that I'm thrilled to throw. He doesn't go crazy deep into the games. 5 or 6 strikeouts per game, but do know he's only pitching 4 to 5 innings anyway. I know he threw 7 innings last time out, but that's the first time all season that he's even crossed into the 6th inning. So 24.3% strikeout rates, 13.6% walk rate. He's inducing a lot of weak fly balls, which is a plus. Padres offense does struggle against lefties, 30th in WOBA, 25.2%. Problem is, if he gets those first 4 runners on, has some troubles if they get to him, they're going to be running. So I do think that this isn't the greatest of spots for Rich Hill, especially if the command's not there. There is some upside. This is more just me talking about him because the upside's there. It's the Padres. And also because the slate is basically 5 to 7 games, depending on where you're looking at. And it's just not that appealing. So I don't mind Rich Hill tonight. If you're playing cash games, he's cash game playable. GPPs, obviously, he's in play. We'll look at Zach Greinke, though. This is a guy that I'm liking tonight in terms of the top option. Is in Colorado for the 4th time this year, but has pitched well. 2 of those games have come in cores. 14.3% swinging strike rate against Colorado this season. Those are solid numbers. Away from home, obviously they drop off, although Chase Field isn't a place where offense really goes to die. But against right-handers this year, 16th in WOBA, 22.1% strikeout rate. Greinke, strong swinging strike percentage, strikeout rate up over 28%. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. I prefer him over Rich Hill and Gio Gonzalez as far as the top option goes. Him being at home favorite helps out a lot. You look at Colorado, they do have one of the lower run totals on the slate, below 4. Greinke is at home favorite, so very much in play for me there. If you want to get weird, even on the other side of that game, I don't hate it. Tyler Chatwood. This is a guy who's pitched pretty well on the road this year. Struggled last time out against the Dodgers, but for the most part, you get this guy. He hasn't been bad in cores at times. Through 6 innings, 2 earned against the Giants. You date back to May at home. 7 innings. Struck out 5 against Arizona. So this guy can pitch, rolls a decent amount of ground balls. I still think this Arizona lineup outside the front 4 isn't that great. I know Owings, Drury, Descalso can homer every now and then, but there's some strikeouts here. There's a chance for a decent game from Chatwood. Not on a small slate. I don't mind considering him in GPPs. But that's about it. And then you kind of look elsewhere. Chacin was the guy who was predicted to pitch tonight, didn't. You get Dylan Overton now, who's just an auto fade. You have Gio Gonzalez. I absolutely hate the DraftKings price tag on him. I just don't like playing this guy at 9,000, let alone play him at 11. Cardinals team that does struggle against lefties. 25th in WOBA, 27th in ISO, 21.4% strikeout rates. Hard contact rate still very high for Gio Gonzalez. Did allow a 245 WOBA in the month of June. Still that 42% fly ball rate. The swing strike rate running around 9%. It's not terrific. Still walks a lot of guys. Really hot night in St. Louis too, so we might see the ball jump off the bats a little bit more than usual. I'm just not thrilled with Gio's price tag. I mean, he's been great, but this is over about a 4 or 5 sample size of games. I'm not loving it. Talking about Jordan Montgomery, though, next. This is a guy who I was off of the last time he played in Chicago, and he was terrific. Houston against Southpaws has been very similar to Chicago. The strikeout rate's very low. The power's up. WOBA is up. This is a tough line to get through, though. You got Altuve, you got Carlos Correa, you got George Springer. I do think those guys are still better than Chicago, even though the numbers don't separate themselves that much. But look at Montgomery with 23.2% strikeout rate this year, 7.9% walk rate. The 24.1% strikeout rate against righties is strong. So, he's in play for me because he is cheap. You just got to basically go up and hope he doesn't blow up. That's the thing, because honestly, you look at that slate, and I'm not going to be playing 2 double-digit strikeout pitch or double-digit salary type pitchers. I'm not playing Greinke and Gio. I'm not playing Carrasco and Greinke. That's not a lineup I'm going to be willing to make. I'll take those shots in terms of SP2s of using, a Tyler Chatwood here or there. I'll go and use a Jordan Montgomery. I'll go and use maybe one of those Angels Mariners guys if I really need to dig down in terms of that price tier. That's just kind of how this slate sets up. So it's not pretty. Cash game playable. Sure, you can play it over on FanDuel where you have Greinke and can just lock him in. But in terms of DraftKings, it's an insanely tough slate to work with. So it's more GPP territory for me. So wrapping it up here, if I'm ranking tonight, Greinke, Hill, Jordan Montgomery, him and Tyler Chatwood are probably tied for that 3rd spot. And then I'm looking Gio, just price considered. And then you can work with possibly one of those Ricky Nolasco, Sam Gaviglio if you need to. But it's not really encouraged. So that's going to wrap things up here. Hopefully you play the early slate. It's much better than this night's slate. And that's going to wrap things up here. You can check out dailyfantasycafe.com for our great tools and content.